Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar. As always, we're going to go quick and try to go through as much knowledge as we can. So it's been a while and thank you all for being so nice on our YouTube channel. It was actually very heartwarming to see how many of you DM'd us and gave us, well, something nice, a piece of your mind, I would say, but in a positive sense, because a lot of you said something like, well, get well soon, and well, cheers. All of that, really, I appreciate that. So that's really my thank you for all of your well, really nice words. Guys, so since I'm feeling better, I'm also going to introduce myself. My name is Michael and I am a teacher at Vizacademy. What is Vizacademy? You probably all know it, but it's not going to hurt to remind you that Vizacademy is a rendering school that will teach you how to create photorealistic visualizations in under 7 weeks. So right now our group is in progress, and I must say that the guys that we are currently hosting, it's really something amazing, because this time we're really going beyond. It's really going super good. So I can see that there's some of you in our audience, so it's really nice to see you. I can see you, Alberto, Rashika, Eleonora. It's really nice to have you here. Oh, hello, John. Mike, team, how are you guys? I hope you're doing well. Yes, we are, and because of that, we decided to make this webinar. So if you want to find out more about our school, make sure to visit Vizacademy Co. UK, and let's get started. So today's topic is going to be one of those that a lot of you kind of want to know, but it's one of that type of knowledge that nobody's really interested in, and I get why that would be. So computers, and what are the right specs, what to choose, and what exactly should I buy, or should I really not buy anything and just rent? So let's answer those questions. But before we get into it, I would like to make sure that we understand what we are really talking about, because computers mainly will be consisting out of well, many components, and we can Google how it looks like. So how many components does laptop have? Okay, so laptop has several primary components. Thank you, Google. That's really helpful. Anyway, we're going to just go through the most basic elements that we can think of, and that's really going to be what I wanted to show you. So what we need to take into consideration whenever we will be working with ArcViz or any other, let's say, whenever we want to use our computers for work, we first need to understand what kind of software we're going to be running on our computers. So all jokes aside, we need to understand that we've got 3 main elements of our computer that we will be using. One of them is RAM, and this is not the most important element of your computer, but it's certainly going to be very important. This is a small graphic that I show my students at the very beginning of our lessons to give them a little bit better understanding what exactly we will be dealing with. So think about RAM as your memory. It's actually random access memory for your computer. So it's really going to be comparable to, let's say, a desk or some kind of storage, or maybe you're even some kind of mouse. So let's think about it this way. Whenever you have 8 gigabytes of RAM, your computer is going to be running normally and there's nothing wrong with it, but you're going to be probably having a little bit of a smaller desk, so you're only going to be able to take care of everything on the desk while it's on the desk. So if you have more work outside of it, you're not going to be really able to apply more workload because you're already overwhelming and the desk is not going to allow you to do that. If you're going to have twice as big desk, and this is going to be 16 gigabytes of RAM, you're obviously going to be able to add more to it, or you're going to be able to chew more at the same time. So pretty big mouth. And what I really want to give you, let's say, some kind of anchor point towards what we're talking about is that 8 gigabytes of RAM is going to allow you to work on one room with moderate amount of detail. This doesn't mean that the quality of rendering is going to drop. It just means that you're going to be able to add less items into your scene before it runs out of RAM. So handling of your scene is going to be a little bit slower. Sometimes your computer is going to have to drop some of that workload on your hard drive, and that's going to significantly slow down, for example, your rendering process. What we can think about in terms of 16 gigabytes of RAM is you're going to be able to work on 2 or 3 rooms at the same time with, well, let's say good quality props, good quality models, and obviously a lot of details in it. It again doesn't mean that your rendering quality is going to significantly go up, or it's going to get better by any means, but it's definitely going to allow you to work a little bit more consistently because you're going to have more items and it's easier to handle without optimizing your scene necessarily. And then we've got 24 or more gigabytes of RAM. This is going to be very uncommon when it comes to laptops to have 24 gigabytes of RAM, so think about it as 32 really. But beyond the point of 24, it's really hard to clog your RAM if you're going to be cautious and you're not going to be doing something extremely unwise with your computer and your scene. So whenever you have 32 gigabytes of RAM, you're pretty much your computer is pretty much going to be flawless. Hello Mike, hello Raimundo, nice to have you. By the way, guys, remember that this is all live, so if you have any questions, remember you can always ask them, and that's going to be extremely appreciated. So next on our list, I would say that RAM is very important because it allows you to remember everything, right, in your scene. So bigger amount of RAM, bigger scenes that we can handle, that's it. But it's not going to speed up the process of your rendering, although if you're not going to have enough RAM, it may slow it down. So it's pretty much going to be something that we have to keep in mind. So then we've got the second very important element of our computer, and that is going to be actually the processor. When it comes to processors, this is the heart, the brain of your computer. So what we really want to know about it is the bigger number means better performance. That's all you have to really know. But there's a lot of those numbers to look at, and there's definitely going to be too many to really handle. So how do we really make sense out of all of those options that we have in front of us? Why do someone need a laptop for modeling, rendering, etc.? Why people can't use desktop? So thank you for that question. So Semi, in this case, in our modern dynamic world, a lot of people will be working with laptops, and this specific webinar is about laptops, but we're also going to be talking about PC specs and the differences between the two. Obviously, when it comes to performance per price, laptops are not going to win in that battle. But whenever you need flexibility, mobility, and being able to be a digital nomad, for example, you probably will be opting for a good laptop, and that is why we're going to be talking about this topic today. But at the same time, remember that desktop PCs are absolutely fine, and they have their ups and downs at the same time. But I personally have a laptop and a regular desktop PC, and I'm going to explain to you how I use them at the same time whenever I travel and I have a little bit of bigger workload. So stay tuned. Okay, hello sir, I have 6 GB of RAM with Intel i5 3rd gen, so I choose Chaos Scatter for so I use Chaos Scatter for my scene. Yes, that's actually a very good idea to hello Asim. It's a very good idea to let's say optimize your scenes as much as possible. Using scatters for a lot of objects or proxies is going to save you a little bit of RAM. So what the member of our audience just said is very smart, but it takes much time to start rendering. Yes, because whenever you use too much RAM in your computer, you're going to get into a spot where your RAM is going to be writing data on your C drive to get a little bit better performance out of your computer. So long story short, it's just going to drop some knowledge or that memory onto your regular hard drive, and reading that can slow down the rendering. That is why it takes so much time to get into action. Thank you for the answer. I don't travel much. I have 2 PCs in one office and 1 at home. That's actually very impressive. Good for you. Okay, so we're on the processor. So as I mentioned, processor is going to be pretty much what, well, compared to the RAM and our analogy of desk or mouth, let's think about processor is how sharp is your teeth, and how fast you can really munch through that all homework on your desk. So the bigger the number on your processor, probably the better performance you're going to go through. So it pretty much chews through the data faster. But again, there's a ton of processors to choose from, and it's really hard to know all about them. That is why there are websites that will help you get a little bit more knowledge, and I strongly advise you to be a little bit more informed buyer. Don't just go for the first pick that is on the sale, or there's some kind of extra pro gaming ultra mega super something, because it really is just marketing jargon, and typically it means really nothing. So we want to use and look at the numbers. First of all, price versus performance. There's a lot of charts that are going to give you the best possible performance, but sometimes they will only compare or take into account how cheap the laptop is versus how fast it renders or how fast it performs. Lucky for us, we've got a lot of good processors. So I would recommend you to type in Google the name of the processor and compare it to another computer that you're thinking about, because it's very easy and it costs you nothing. And buying the wrong computer may cost you a lot of frustration. So I would definitely recommend you to first of all check the benchmarks. But what benchmarks are we going to be checking, and what exactly is the benchmark? Well, benchmark is some kind of arbitral way of testing computers. So again, I wouldn't really go for the first benchmark I'm going to open, because for example, we've got this same processor that in our ranking, it was absolutely amazing in here. So CPU benchmarks, let's check it again. High-end CPU chart, best value, single thread, search for CPU model. So we want to go ahead and find what exactly we need. So high-end CPU chart. If we go here, those are going to be the desktop computers or desktop PCs, CPUs. Those are definitely going to, one processor is going to be probably in the price of a whole laptop or even more. So definitely that's something to consider whenever you will be making a purchase, to not overspend whenever you want to just play with some 3ds Max and SketchUp. But jokes aside, you definitely want to check per price first, because there's one thing we cannot really go over, and that is your budget. If you have a budget for X amount, you will buy what's in your budget, and that's pretty much what you're going to be looking at first. So first, make sure to set up some price point. This doesn't have to be arbitrary. You could test or check what performance you're going to get using the benchmarks I told you by, for example, searching the exact processor that you are interested in. But going to Amazon or any other website, you're going to have a lot a lot of options to pick and choose from. So let's narrow this down to what we really need. So as I said, we need the RAM, processor, and we need also graphics card. I didn't really talk about graphics card because graphics are only going to be needed for us for the viewport performance. So honestly, it's not going to have that much of an impact because in 3ds Max, whenever we want to have, let's say, a very good performance, 20 to 30 frames per second is a lot for us. So you really don't need a lot. But again, the better the graphics card you're going to get, more items you're going to be able to display in, let's say, timely manner. This doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to handle everything, but if your GPU is not going to be able to, let's say, handle all the objects at the same time, you're going to pretty much have this kind of performance whenever you will be playing animation or moving objects. So it's all about that. But at the same time, RAM and processor is also going to take some kind of level of workload whenever you will be working at 3ds Max. Hello Todor, nice to have you. I actually have a friend with that name, but it's actually Todorov, also from Bulgaria. Margarita, hello, welcome. Raishik, which monitor is good for 3ds Max? That's a good question. Thank you for it. So when it comes to 3ds Max, a lot of people will be spouting a lot of nonsense. They will tell you that you have to get Ezio or some kind of super expensive a screen that's going to just give you the pixel quality that's even not going to be achievable by a Veta Digital. But honestly, it's a lot of I would say stupid talking, because your screen, as long as it's going to be LED and it's going to have full spectrum of colors, that's all. You don't need high frame rate, you don't need some kind of refresh rate, you don't need any kind of technology that is really used for gaming is not for us, because we work around 30 to 20 frames and it works for us, because what you're doing is clicking here. So you don't need high refresh rate, and that's going to be a good thing to think about, because what you need is the right resolution, the right size, right energy consumption, right display of the colors. But again, the displaying of the colors is really not that important. As long as it's going to be using modern profiles, there's not going to be a lot of difference between screen number 1 and 2, because they all use almost the same matrices created by Samsung. It's really not going to be that important. But what's going to be important is that whenever you will be working on your super duper screen, you're going to be sending your extra super tailored pixels that were absolutely perfect color-wise to a guy that's going to be viewing it on a phone, and yeah, we have to check if the cat can move to the left. That's really going to be preposterous to work on any level than entry for ArcViz or regular projects. If you're going to go to Veta Digital and you're going to be working on Avengers, then you probably want to think about a little bit better display. But if you're going to be doing ArcViz and general 3D, for, either as a designer, hobbyist, or, well, a graphic designer, you're definitely going to just go for regular screen with normal color spectrum, because otherwise you're going to run into some issues. By the way, I can see that some of you are asking about my computer, so let's talk about it for a second. So let's see. I use CPU-Z because I think it's a very nice way of monitoring your computer. I also like to use CPU temp to just get a little bit of better read of my computer overall. And this station is already 3 years old, so I'm going to soon buy a new one, but still it runs really well. So what I'm using is a desktop computer. At the moment, I'm using AMD Ryzen Threadripper 2970WX, which is really going to be a 24 processor, 48 thread computer, which is amazing and it serves me well. I do not overclock it because I don't need it at the moment. It pretty much overclocks itself while working, so there's no need for me to do that because it boosts up really well. Okay, as for the memory, I'm using DDR4, and those are when it comes to the company and its speed, it really doesn't matter. Make sure that it matches your computer or your laptop or whatever. Laptop is already going to have a matching one, so it's all about making sure that the RAM frequency is going to be tailored to your computer. I've got 64 gigabytes of RAM, but I started this machine with 128, and no project that I was doing, and I was doing larger blocks of flats, some kind of small villages for concerts, and I never used even 48 gigabytes of RAM, so I decided to split that in half and bought another computer, so it's standing right there, and yeah, I don't need more than that, so I wouldn't really recommend you more. If you're going to be serious about ArcViz, you don't want to overinvest. You best invest the most money in your processor, because processor is going to be the difference between slow and fast rendering. So what it means really is that whenever we want to have some kind of good performance, and whenever we want to render something on, let's say, more reasonable note, you definitely want to go for some kind of well, good processor. But going back to our purchase and user guide for making those informed decisions. So first of all, make sure that you're going to have enough RAM. It's not about the quality of RAM, but the quantity. In this case, 16 or 32 is going to be enough. If you have an option to go for 64, go for it, but typically it's going to be extremely pricey when it comes to laptops, obviously. But if you want to go for some kind of GPU, just take anything. Unfortunately, I would say that at the moment, let's say Corona works the best with NVIDIA. No, Corona does not rely on GPU. Corona is a strictly CPU-based processor, but it has one feature that I think is very helpful, and that is NVIDIA Optics. So NVIDIA GPU Fast Preview. I do not use this for production. I use this only for previews, and sometimes it's actually good. So I do use it, but Corona High Quality is the best denoising algorithm that there is, although it sometimes isn't really that fast compared to the Fast Preview, although Fast Preview blurs out everything. So since I'm using Corona, and also I occasionally use V-Ray and V-Ray the hybrid version, so you probably want to invest in your GPU the moderate amount of money. Then the most important is your CPU. CPU is definitely going to be the heart, the brain of your computer. So going back to our Amazon and how to look for what exactly we need. I have Ryzen 9 3950, 32 gigabytes of RAM and RTX. Okay, should I update RAM or wait 2 years to upgrade whole system? RAM is actually very cheap, so I would say that if you run out of RAM for some reason and you feel like you need more, go for it. But if you're not running out of RAM and you don't get any kind of additional, let's say, pop-ups that you're running out of, you're running low on RAM and that may slow down your performance, then don't, because you don't need it definitely. Hi, is this foolish to be 3ds without using GTX? Hi, is it foolish to be? No, it's not really foolish to be 3D artist without using GTX. I mean, it all depends what type of 3D artist, what type of work you're going to be doing. Because obviously it's like asking about, is it okay to be a doctor without knowing how to use a scalpel? Well, depends on what type of doctor you're going to be. If you're a surgeon, you best be good at it, but if you're not, you probably don't need it, and that really comes down to what software you're going to be using. So before you make any purchases, I'm going to be recommending what I would be buying if I would be working in the same environment as I do. So I work in 3ds Max, Corona, Photoshop, occasionally V-Ray, SketchUp, AutoCAD. I also use Marvelous Designer and very occasionally ZBrush. So those are the let's say programs, or those are the applications of my choice. I don't use more. Occasionally do. I use everything really, but it's not really going to be important for me. None of those applications currently use, for example, a lot of GPU. So for that reason, I don't need to invest in it. But if I would be going for ArchiCAD, Enscape, Revit, if I would be going for, let's say, Lumion, or even if I would be going for vintage rendering from Chaos, I would definitely think about GPU a little bit more. So it's all going to be first the question, what am I going to be doing with my computer? Am I going to be using 5D render, Unreal, Corona, V-Ray? What exactly is my planned workflow? That is the question, and that once you answer it, that's what you buy. But thinking about Corona mainly, in Corona forever in my heart, I do use Corona because I found it to be the most flexible software out there. It's the fastest, it delivers the best results so far, and it's nonsense free, so I really like it. Plus, they have really nice support, and I am with Corona since like 2016, if I recall correctly, and I kind of never looked back because they really are good. So anyway, whenever you want to buy a computer and you want to test what exactly you want to buy, first of all, pick something that is in your budget. Make sure that you're going to be setting up that budget, or let's say the search. You're going to tailor the search to, first of all, obviously, your budget is the most important. Then we're going to be picky about specs. So you definitely want to avoid 8 gigabytes of RAM because 8 gigabytes of RAM is not going to be enough. 16 is okay. 32 is a double okay because that's twice as much. So that's going to be very handy. When it comes to laptops, I would strongly recommend you to use HDMI port, because if you want to work on your laptop here and you have one extra screen there, then you plug in your extra keyboard and you're absolutely now an office person that works on a professional level, I would say. Plus, your laptop can get better cooling that way. But if you're only going to be using one screen, this is optional and this is just my preference. All of that, rest of the extras is not something I would even look at. When it comes to memory technology, we don't care, as long as the processor is good. When it comes to graphics co-processor, we don't care. We just don't. Okay, what do we care about? If you care about graphics card, I would say that take something that's going to have 8 gigabytes of VRAM or more, because right now you cannot run from it and it's coming our way. The AI is going to be dependent on GPU to some extent, and more VRAM means that you're going to compute whatever you throw at it a little bit faster. So it's actually going to be a good idea to have more than 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Then the display resolution. Okay, as 3ds Max really hates a higher resolution, it somehow just gets all butchered in it. It has to rescale, and I just don't use 4K screens because honestly, it's just not necessary for me. I know that it looks better in some, it looks sharper on the same size, but honestly, I cannot tell any difference just in the long run of whenever I work with this resolution and that resolution. So I just don't overspend and set myself for this type of bracket. Also, during the webinars and even now, I use this resolution so everybody can see what I have on my screen. So I got used to it, and maybe you're going to need smaller windows, bigger viewports, but it's not really something that I would go for. Definitely this bracket works, the bottom one doesn't. Refresh rate. So this is only going to be important for the gamers, and if you're going to play video games, you probably want to go for the highest refresh rate possible, because frames win games. But in this case, we are not playing a game, we're actually going to be working, so it's best to avoid it. Okay, now we've got our featured brands. Okay, which brand should you choose? Never be loyal to a brand, because they're just products and you want the best specs for the best money. That's all. That's pretty much it. Then we've got what we are interested in, the price. You want to set it at the very beginning, as I said, so this is just a reminder that we set it up. And then all the rest in here is just junk that we don't really need. Once you set up everything, you're going to probably have a plethora of options. So here we missed a few of the very important options. So for example, how many cores do I need? You don't look at it, because really it's not going to be something you're going to notice the difference between 14 and 24, 16 and 32. Yes, it is going to be important if the processor is good, but old processor that's going to have 62 cores is not going to be as fast as one that has 32 and it's modern. So it's pretty much going to be all about the performance. And that brings us to a very, very, very important moment. The processors and picking the right laptop. Because now, whenever you will be looking at those those computers, you're going to see that some of them are going to be really good, some of them are going to be a little bit lower quality, and well, sometimes you're just going to have some problems. Where's the, oh yeah, I clicked on 32 gigabytes only. So sometimes you're going to see that laptops will have that kind of letter at the end of the name of the processor, and it's going to be H, U, X, HX, or something like that. So let's just type in what does it mean. So AMD processor letter meaning, that's really what I go for. And it really goes for U, typically means that it's going to be lower voltage, so it's probably going to be lower performance as well. Age is for high power mobile, so it's probably going to be a little bit more energy consuming, but it's going to be also better. An HX in AMD processors will mean that it's going to be the highest performance, and it's going to probably come with some kind of extra graphics card, so it's probably going to be a good choice for those of you that will be using this kind of hardware. So we pretty much have what we need: company name, brand name, CPU, genre, then we got generation, we've got performance level, which is really very misleading, and then we've got model number, which is again meaningless, and we've got something that's important, the power suffix. So Intel has a very similar naming scheme. H means high performance, U power efficient. So, but they named it a little bit more elegantly. So going back to our processors, let's talk about what we would be choosing. I personally bought one of the HP laptops, that's Victus, and because it really had good performance per price ratio, and I really think that it was really a good choice. I am actually very happy with it, although it's just for me to do webinars when I'm out of town and I just need to visit a client or a site to really go through it. But what you really want to look at whenever you see a laptop and you think, okay, this one is in my price range, I kind of like what it does, but let's see what type of processor does it have. Okay, so H means high performance. Okay, let's see how much H does it mean, does it give us. Okay, nobody even used this processor on the benchmark score, so we probably need to look for something else. If nobody uses it, I would probably not go into that territory. But we also need to be aware of one very important and misleading statistic in those CPU benchmarks, because those are submitted by the users, and typically users that are interested in benchmarking their computers are going to overclock their processors. That is why you're going to see a vast discrepancy in this frequency of gigahertz on your computer. So is the let's say speed of munching of your computer, the bigger number, the munchier your computer, your CPU is. Rest is just going to be optional, so we don't even look at it. But this is going to be the most informative, because this is pretty much also going to be the determining factor of your computer. Because now we can see that this CPU is, let's say, default, and we're going to go for just any kind. By the way, guys, this is not sponsored. There's no sponsoring here. It's just me talking about computers and not, let's say, a little bit all around way, without really going into any kind of specifics. So I am not discouraging you to buy any brand, and I'm not saying that any brand is worth buying. So when it comes to your computer, you want to see what kind of laptop you're going to be getting and what performance does this processor have. So you definitely want to type in the name, and if it's going to allow you, which I hope it will, you're also going to see the processor's frequency. But Amazon has a problem with this, with displaying the frequency in many cases. For example, here we can see that this item has CPU frequency 0 gigahertz, so it probably means that it's bad. Also, don't get misled by this very high number on some other Legion or Acer Predator, because those are the boosted clocks. So okay, that's pretty much going to be okay, because that's the starting clock of your computer. I bought a Lenovo Legion 17, but my charger port shortened it, and it didn't fall under the warranty. That's awful. That's awful. I hope that you're going to be able to at least fix it somehow. Do you think that eventually Chaos Group will switch to some kind of AI for image processing? What they're doing right now, the whole Chaos, is they're trying to create a bigger hub for their software. So you can see that Chaos has Cosmos, and they want to make sure that whenever you will be working with Corona, V-Ray, or other software, you're going to have access to the same 3D models, and that will be available to you across multiple platforms. So that's where we're heading. We're heading towards the USD, so Universal Standard Description of the scene. So we're going to get more and more universal workflow, universal, let's say, performance. But at the moment, I don't think they're going to suddenly switch to AI, because it's almost like the fossil fuel industry. They don't want to lose that. We could probably get cheaper alternative methods of using some kind of other fuels than fossil fuels. I'm not saying I'm an expert, not at all, but there are many people that will lose money if we do. So we don't, and that's why they won't switch to AI suddenly, because it's not going to give them the same amount of money, or at least it's going to kill their already golden cows, or, well, chicken laying golden eggs, or whatever you call that. So I wouldn't really get to that point where they will switch it, and up until it's almost too late. They will eventually, but don't think about AI as some kind of solution to all of your problems and suddenly you're the best 3D designer ever. No, that's not going to happen for a long shot, because AI and its performance, whatever it's going to be doing to our scenes, is only going to be speeding up the process of already seasoned, or let's say already more experienced users, while the newbies are still going to have a huge boost. It's not going to suddenly make you a Da Vinci. It's not going to make you some kind of professional. You're not going to be making better visuals than Digital or any other tomorrow, because there is definitely a lot of space for experience in that. So that's going to be just a boost for you, but it's not going to suddenly take your job. Hello, I tried it but failed. That's really, really, really sad too. That's awful to hear. I don't know what to tell you. It's just awful. Hi sir, from Tailam Nampu, India. Hi, Nanda. Nice to have you. Hello, Mike. May I ask if the RAM frequency matters for laptops when it comes to Corona? I have an Intel i5 11 Gen and 8 gigabytes of RAM on my laptop. So RAM frequency won't matter as much because RAM frequency means how fast your processor is able to communicate with the RAM. But it really doesn't matter for us. I mean, you're never going to see the difference in performance whenever you buy slightly faster one. Maybe on some longer renders you're going to have 1 or 2 minutes cut, but it's really not going to be even possible to notice. So as long as it's going to be something that you have in as long as it's good, it's good. I would definitely consider buying more, Oliver, because in that case, 16 gigabytes is probably going to be the better answer for you. I have a Ryzen 9 with gigabytes, upgrade to RAM, wait 2 years. So Asim, I already answered your question. You missed it. You missed my answer. So as for 2 years upgrade, don't upgrade now. I mean, you don't need to upgrade now. RAM is cheap. If you need more, buy more. But I answered your question, man. So Sir from Pope making it bluish again. Making it bluish? Oh, hi Mikasa. Nice to. I misread that. Hi, nice to see you again. It's great to have somebody like you in our audience. So let's continue. So CPU speed, you type in the name of your processor into Corona benchmark, check the frequency versus what you're going to buy and what is displayed. You typically want to go for the frequency that's going to be displayed, check or look at the displayed frequency of your processor on the buyer's page, because that's what you're going to get. You're not going to be overclocking. And with all of that, that's when you can try or start thinking about buying your computer. So whenever you want to buy it, to sum it up, it's really up to sum up what is important when buying computers and what exactly you should be doing. Again, RAM is a very important, let's say, condition or aspect or element of your computer, but it's not going to play the major role. When it comes to RAM, you want to go for 16 or 32 gigabytes of RAM. If you're going to go for desktop, you pretty much go through the same through the same scheme. Whenever you want to think about GPU, you think about what software am I going to use? Am I going to use Unreal, Lumion, Enscape, Vintage, or am I just going to use CPU-based software, Corona, 3ds Max, or any other cycles, for example, from Blender? So this is going to be important to think in those terms before making a purchase. But then we're going to have to think about one additional thing, the processor. Processor is the most important element of your whole computer. So you're definitely going to want to invest in that the most. You check each computer, each CPU, name by name in your in the benchmark, coronabenchmark.com. So Corona benchmark / Corona render benchmark, and that's going to allow you to get the most information, compare the gigahertz frequency, and obviously bigger number means better performance. You want to go for the biggest possible number in the benchmark, because that's pretty much going to allow you to get the exact software hardware you need. And when it comes to Corona, you definitely want to stick to Corona because it's awesome. And now when we know what 3 elements are important, I'm also going to tell you one additional thing. Always think about your hardware in terms of something that's going to probably die on you over 3 or 4 years. So you first of all need a reliable hard drive and a backup of all of your data. Make sure to store it either on a cloud, or make sure to have an outside hard drive that's going to be storing all of your data. I lost 3 hard drives, and the first time it happened, I didn't have money to buy a new replacement as a backup, so I just bought a replacement, but I lost the data. That was very unfortunate and very sad for me. but I didn't lost a lot. Then, because I didn't have money, I just had a little bit of a problem, and I've struck my disk on a wall because I was traveling with my computer, and because of that, the disk literally just blew up when I plugged it in. I lost a lot that time because I didn't have extra backups, because this was my pretty much backup disk that I was using. And at the moment, I was really sad because I lost all of my high school photos. I lost everything I had in the terms of data. Then I had a drive that was, let's say, the travel drive that you use outside of your computer. That one also died on me because I dropped it and I lost a lot of data. Long story short, make sure to make yourself at least one backup of your data, because you're going to lose a lot of memories and a lot of hard work, which is really important for your hard drive. And then we can start purchasing your computers. What kind of, let's say, where should you ask about computers? Who should give you the best info? Well, you probably want to ask a tech geek, but please make sure to focus and emphasize that you're not after GPU, you're after CPU performance, and test it with benchmark. Those people that are in are selling you stuff in shops, they will be still wanting to sell you. They want to push the product that's laying on their shelves, so they not always will be giving you the right hardware to buy, because they just want to get rid of the overhang in their magazines. So definitely you want to test first and then purchase. So now you know, now you have a little bit more info on how to get the right hardware. Yes, I do remember you. Can you suggest which monitor should I buy? No, because honestly, just look for anything that's going to be approximately 27 inches. Maximum size in pixels, I would go to 2560 x 1440 pixels, because it's UHD and nothing else is going to be necessary for 3ds Max. 3ds Max doesn't like you to go for higher resolutions. In some cases 4K with some configurations of GPU, CPU, and your graphics card is going to give you a little bit glitchy UI, which is really annoying to combat. And you're going to also have to fix it each time you're going to be updating your 3ds Max. Huge problem for me, and I hated it, so I just switched to smaller resolution screens. It's just easier that way. Yes, it's 3ds Max, unfortunately. And on top of everything, we've got more questions. Hi, where can I find interior design freelances as a student? That's a good question, and we're going to be making a webinar on that topic in approximately a month. So when it comes to freelance, you probably want to start with something simpler. Make sure to prepare your portfolio. During our training, we make sure that our students will be able to create their own portfolios. So all the images that we choose and create during the webinars are going to be, let's say, for a purpose of building your portfolio, going through various scenarios and making sure that you are prepared. But where do you look for a job? First of all, first get the portfolio. That's when you want to start allowing people to see you, because nobody will know how talented you are if you're not going to tell them, or at least let them see you. So posting your work on your social media, on some kind of websites like Behance, Instagram, it's also going to be very helpful. Once you're established there to some extent, you don't have to have millions of followers, you don't have to have thousands, 100 or even tens is enough, but make sure that you exist, because otherwise nobody's going to be even able to contact you. Make sure to start being active on architects forums and just let people know, this is what I do. If you want to, come to me. And then you go bonkers, because you also want to contact the companies that you're interested in working with. Just make sure to give them a call, talk to them, and check what they need. Websites like Fiverr, Upwork, or similar might be a very nice starting point. Yes, they typically go for the lowest price point possible, but if you don't have any commissions and you need money, that's probably a good way to start, because that's also going to allow you to build bigger portfolio. You don't have to take everything that people throw at you, but if it makes you money and you need money, you don't have the luxury to be picky. But at the same time, remember that if you already are established and you have a little bit and you're really not desperate, I wouldn't take anything that is thrown my way, because if you're going to take a project that's just not going to give you enough money to survive, and a new client comes in, you're going to either have to fail first project to take the second one, which is just unethical, or you're going to have to finish the project that you're not going to get enough money and lose a client. So this is something that I would go for in your case. F-Storm for the win. That's actually a very good software. So F-Storm, and Tyson is an amazing person. It's just, yeah, that guy is cool. Can you show us some external hard drives you use? Do you use external SSD or HD? What speeds? This is really going to be probably best to open my shelf, and nope, I cannot really reach for them now, but yeah, I've got a few of them even laying around me, because I typically have a few of them. So I use Seagate regular drive, and those are not even some kind of top quality. Those are just my regular travel hard drives. I have two that are 2 terabytes, but I also have 8 terabyte one, and I also have a NAS station that's also stationed there. So plus I use cloud, and I have another hard drive that's backing up my data, because I really went through a lot of I would say hardships with my hard drives, so I really am prepared for any occasion. How important is true color display? It's not important at all. I mean, if you're going to be working with other professionals on a professional level for game design, and some nerds are going to be looking at it and, this pixel is the wrong shade, that's maybe when you want to go for a little bit higher specs in your screen. But remember, we're working with humans and not some kind of professionals, because really those guys are annoying, if anything, because they kind of focus on the least important elements of the craft, and that's why you really let's not talk about that. Anyway, it's important, but if you will be creating pixel perfect images with extra tones, with absolutely true color display, everything absolutely perfect, and then your client is going to be displaying your work on their phone, on their cheap laptop, or at the office on a computer that's still going to be 20 years old because they're too cheap to buy a new one. What's the point of that? As long as it prints well, as long as they can look at it and they say, yes, that's pretty much all you need. So no, do not invest in some kind of fancy screens, because it's really going to be just a gimmick. And most of the humans actually cannot see any difference between true display and any color profiles that are out there. As long as you have the modern color profile that comes with Windows, there's no need for us to really elaborate any further. Thank you, helped me a lot. Thanks for advice, Britton. Glad that we went over that. Okay, guys, so since this is the end of our webinar, I would like to also invite you for our next webinar. I'm still working on this, but it's going to be definitely worth your time, because we're going to go to some bases of animation. We're going to create this very short but better looking animation. This is not the version I wanted to show you, actually. So this is me still working on it. So we're going to create this animation. The model is going to be a little bit better quality. Everything in this scene is going to be procedural, and we're going to have full control over the placement of all objects. We're going to learn how to work with helpers, how to use motion path, and overall how to force objects to look at something in your scene so that you will be able to create fancy animations. This is going to be our next week, but in 2 weeks we're also going to create something even more extraordinary, and that's going to be our From Zero to Hero typical webinar, where we will be talking about beautiful bathroom that you might have seen on our Instagram. So tune in for our next week webinar. Guys, if I can ask you for that, please like and subscribe this video. Once it's finished, also leave a comment. It really helps us to boost in eyes of the algorithm, and it really helps us to reach more of you. I get more boost of motivation to talk to you, and that all really works. So if you like our content, please leave a like, subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you once again, and see you in 1 week. Bye bye.